Did you start with a location?
out of a CrossFit gym.
Oh, so like you were sharing space with the CrossFit gym.
Yep, I was just on the side. I had a couple of my friends, honestly. You know, George Dury, one of my mentors, he helped me find a spot. He did it for free for me. You know, I had no money in the bank, and I remember I walked in, like there's lights hanging from the ceiling. It's carpeted. It was an old law office, 1,500 square feet, I think.
On Tacoma.
Yeah.
Behind the Aldi, right?
Yeah.
That was the spot.
It was the spot, and I remember, you know, I talked to my parents about it. They're like, I had to sign the personal guarantee. They're just like, hey, like, you know, we support you, but if you fail, like, you're going
Like
bankrupt.
how long was,
right?
and this was pre-COVID time when like now I feel like commercial real estate leases are a little bit different. Like what was that first lease that you signed?
So this was in 2014. It was a 3-year lease, right?
Which is still like 3 years. That's probably one of the shortest term commercial leases that they did at the time. But like I feel like a lot of those were like 5 and 10 year like anchor tenants, you know, things like that. So you signed in 3 years. What was rent at Tacoma in 2014?
Probably around $3,000,
So you're
2 or 3 grand.
three grand. Like you extrapolate that, and you're like, damn, that's like $100,000 investment.
Right.
And how old are you at the time?
24.
24. And you're like, you're training Shatard. Like you're in the weight room there.
I'm in the weight room there.
So you have like a little bit of like, okay, there's some stability, like a little bit coming from the school, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, right? It's 2014, so I'm making like $15 an hour doing that, and I'm hyped, right? Like, hey, I got a little bit of guaranteed income coming in, and then everything else, I gotta eat what I kill, right?
So you sign the lease on the place, and you have to turn a law office into a gym
Yep.
on a shoestring budget.
Yes, on a shoestring budget. I remember Kyle and I are in there, like, you know, taping up there's holes in the cement. We're trying to plug them. Like, and I had so much like just help amongst the community along the way. The Babcocks, right? They own the electrical company. I cut a deal there, so it's like I'll train your son to help me with the lights. And so, you know, I was just going to auctions, picking up the equipment like that, just balling on a budget.
You operate 2 facilities, but you help out and have like worked with over 19 facilities across the country. So the impact that you've had from 24 in a decade, or when you spend a decade chasing your passion, like you're making an outsized impact far beyond Central Indiana now, but it all started on that in the 1,500 square feet in Tacoma. What was the first class you opened up? Like what was the first workout that you were coaching through, and how many people showed up?
You know, like I said, I had a couple of my adult clients. I want to get into sports performance. I need to be able to convert some of these athletes from Shatard over into the gym. So I reach out to the Hannons, right? I'm like, hey, David, like you should come in and try this out. It was David, and I still remember Jimmy Boso. 2 Shatard boys. I had a tire, a rack, and a barbell. That's it. Right?
One rack, one barbell.
Yeah.
Where do you even like go buy weights? Just like Facebook Market. No, Facebook Marketplace wasn't even a thing yet, right?
Well, at the time, I was going to auctions and trying to just get equipment for cheap, right? And so I remember, you know, it was like, all right, punch the tire back and forth. You know, we'll do some squats and some bench. Like that's all I had. There was no turf. We'll do some sprints on the rubber, and then
Or out in the parking lot.
yeah, and then like farmers walks in the parking lot, right?
Dude, summer at the Tacoma Genesis was just different because the doors would be wide open. We'd be blaring music that would make the freaking paint peel off the walls. That was 3 years later. So by the time I got there, you were already semi-established. So you get a few Shatard athletes to start coming in. Did you still have those adjustable dumbbells? Remember those?
Yeah.
Those
Those were my dumbbells.